I am Matt Baird, President of Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Chamber and the Board of Directors, I welcome you to tonight's LSR-7 School Board Candidate Forum, again hosted by the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce. We are pleased and honored to have the Lee Summit R7 School Board candidates with us tonight, as well as each of you. I want to express our appreciation to the University of Central Missouri Lee Summit, UCM right here, and the Missouri Innovation Campus for allowing us to host the event here tonight. I also want to thank the following members who have helped sponsor this evening's forum: Checklist Media, Life Goal Strategies Group, Rodney Loesch, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, St. Luke's Health System, and Tingle Flooring. So thank you to all of our sponsors tonight. When you came in this evening, you may have noticed a table containing the candidate profile booklets. I think most of you saw those as you came in. If you did not, they're just outside the room here. You can grab a candidate profile booklet that's got all the candidates in that program. Again, it provides information on each candidate and answers to questions that were previously posed by the Lee Summit Chamber. This forum is being live streamed tonight on the Chamber's YouTube channel, and a recording of the forum will be posted on the Chamber's Facebook page and website after the event. Okay, so I say after the event, it'll be posted probably tomorrow, not tonight, but tomorrow. A few housekeeping items. There is water in the back on each side of the room. There's a cooler of water, so feel free to grab a bottle of water. Restrooms are also to the back and to your right. Okay, that's where the restrooms are at. Please mute or vibrate your cell phones. Please mute or vibrate your cell phones. We want to create an environment with little distraction that shows respect to the candidates. So I ask that if you want to record the forum, that you please do so from the back of the room. I've been doing this for 10 years, guys, 10 years, and I have had candidates or people who've sat in the front row and tried to record. We don't allow that. I'll have you guys go to the back, and you can do it from the back, but we're not going to have you in the front, okay? Not going to mess with that. If the moderators see any recordings from the front, as I stated, we'll have you go to the back of the room. The second warning, you will be asked to leave the forum. We also ask that applauding for candidates to be held until the end of the forum. No distractions tonight. Again, I've done this a number of times where we've had distractions and it causes problems. So I ask that you please hold your applause till the end of the program. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderators for this evening. We have Rick Vire, current chair of the Chamber's Legislative Committee, and Rick Smetana, who is the immediate past chair of the Chamber's Legislative Committee and on the Board of Directors. Both fine individuals are active volunteers with the Chamber and the Lee Summit community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the moderators.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Welcome, and thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being here this evening. Before we begin, I would like to outline tonight's format for you. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will begin in alphabetical order and finish in reverse order if time allows for closing remarks. After each candidate's opening remarks, we will begin the question and answer session. The questions have been generated by members of the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce and a member of this audience. There are pins and index cards on tables in the hall if you would like to submit a question. If you've written a question on the index card, hold it up and Mark Parrish, Mark, raise your hand please, thank you, we'll get it from you. We will not ask questions that are directed to a specific candidate or a subgroup of candidates, only to all of the candidates. Candidates should limit their answers to 1 minute, please. Kirby Ashland will be positioned where the video equipment is located, in the back of the room, and will hold up a sign letting the candidates know that there are 10 seconds remaining to conclude their answers. Each candidate's opening remarks and answers to the questions will be timed. Once the alarm sounds, please be considerate, honor the time allotment, and finish speaking. We have 2 hours and 4 candidates, and we'll do our best to ask as many questions as possible. If you have a question that was not asked during the forum, we encourage you to approach the candidate after the forum. Finally, we respectfully ask that the candidates focus on answering the questions. Those who choose to make personal attacks will be warned. A candidate warned 3 times will be dismissed from the forum. So in alphabetical order, we will begin with Michelle Dawson's opening remarks. After Michelle will be Jennifer Foley, Nikki Nickens, and Leon Weatherby. Michelle?
Good evening. I want to thank the Lee Summit Chamber for hosting this amazing event, and I want to thank each of you for coming to this event, whether it's online or here in the room, for taking time out of your schedules to learn more about the board candidates and making an informed decision this April. Why am I here? The mission of the district is to prepare each student for success in life. And everyone who is involved with our district, the LSR-7 district, is passionate about that one mission. And I want to make sure that our school board of all 7 members is also equally as passionate about that mission and is making informed, nonpartisan, collaborative decisions to oversee the operations of the district through the superintendent. Why vote for me? I have a background in project management and a background in operations project management, and I was fortunate enough to be selected to go to the 2024 Parent Academy, which the district offers to involved parents in the district to learn more about human resources, facilities, financials, everything about how the district works. And based on what I knew about operating a nonprofit and what I now know about operating a school district, I know what's the same, I know what's different, and I understand the decisions that are being made and the budget items that are being proposed at the school board meetings to the school board. I'm a parent of 2 students in the district. I have been involved for several years. I've lived in Lee Summit for 20 years, and I am 100% invested in the success of this district. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley?
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting tonight. My name is Jennifer Foley. I'm the parent of a 10-year-old 4th grader that is in the district. I am in my 3rd year on the Board of Education. When I first applied for this role, I leaned on my leadership experience from formal training and from other prior board service alongside my passion for quality education for the next generation. During my time on the board, I have been involved with many positive changes in the district. We increased veteran staff pay through policy GCBA to give credit for all years of experience, supported a levy transfer that allowed us to make significant increases to staff salaries, increased community engagement with the Dinner with the Board sessions, requested an audit of all LSR-7 facilities for ADA accessibility, and advocated for additional math support specialists in all of our buildings, and also increased access for structured literacy resources. I appreciate your vote on April 8th, and I look forward to answering more of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens?
Hi, my name is Nikki Nickens. Thank you so much for taking some time out on this beautiful night to spend it inside. Appreciate you being here. A little bit about me. My husband and I moved to Lee Summit 20 years ago with our children who were at the time 2, 4, 6, and 8-ish, and so we were very concerned about finding great schools, and everyone told us to buy in Lee Summit because this is where the best schools are. And so we did. We have had 4 children go through and graduate, elementary, middle school, high school in Lee Summit, and we're still here in the community where the school is still super important, even if you don't have kids in the schools. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I got my bachelor's in psychology and child development from Truman State back when it wasn't called Truman State. If anybody knows Northeast Missouri State University, go Bulldogs. And then I worked for about 9 years. I worked at a children's emergency abuse shelter, as well as working 7 years in public schools, elementary, middle, and high schools as a behavior specialist and mental health liaison, working with kiddos that had pretty significant behavior difficulties, as well as working in their homes with their families. I decided to go to graduate school at MU and got my PhD in educational psychology and became a faculty member at UCM in Warrensburg 26 years ago, and I'm still there today. So I've been involved in teacher education for 26 years. For those of you who don't know what educational psychology is, it is the study of teaching and learning. People have asked me why I decided to run. For one thing, I've been interested in running for a while, but with 4 kids and a career that I commute for and that I used to travel a lot for, there wasn't a great time prior to this, and I feel like this is a great time. I look forward to defending public education and working with the district to continue the excellence that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leon Weatherby, and I'm running for a seat on the Board of Education because I believe in the power of public education to provide opportunity for all students. As a father of children in the LSR-7 School District, I have a personal stake in ensuring our schools offer the resources and support that every child needs to succeed. I'm passionate about supporting our dedicated teachers and staff who are the backbone of our schools. I'll advocate for policies and empower them and ensure they have the tools to thrive. At the same time, I believe in being responsible stewards of taxpayers' dollars, ensuring every decision made benefits our students while operating efficiently. I decided to run because I believe in my strong leadership background, ability to collaborate with diverse teams towards common goals, and business experience can bring a fresh perspective to the board. I look forward to the opportunity to work together to continue strengthening our district for the benefit of all students. Thank you for taking your time and being here this evening.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for your opening remarks. We will now move into the next phase of the forum with the questions beginning in this candidate order. Jennifer Foley, Nikki Nickens, Leon Weatherby, and Michelle Dawson.
Thank you all for coming here tonight. First question's an easy one. This is just a show of hands. So by a show of hands, have you attended or watched an LSR-7 school board meeting in the last 3 months? In the last 6 months? In the past year? Thank you.
Second question, what was your involvement with the LSR-7 before deciding to run for the school board? Jennifer Foley first, please.
Before deciding to run for the Board of Education, I was a volunteer in my child's classroom. Since being on the Board of Education, I have been involved with the Citizens Advisory Committee, the Woodland Elementary PTA, the LSR-7 Audit Committee, the Teacher of the Year Committee, the Lee Summit Economic Development Council, Workforce Alliance, the Community Engagement Committee, and also I have been the Missouri School Board Association delegate. Thank you.
Nikki Nickens.
Prior to running, I was involved for a long time, about 16 years as a parent in the district, volunteering in the classrooms, as well as being a soccer mom, cross-country mom, cheer mom, student senate mom, band mom. I think I covered all of them. Cross-country, did I say that? I also got to go on field trips and things like that as I could volunteer for the Highland Park Carnival. Professionally, I have been involved also with the Lee Summit District in the capacity of placing students and working with the district on pre-student teaching experiences for UCM students.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
Yes, I've been a parent of children in the LSR-7 School District now for about 7 years. I've supported our PTA fundraisers. I've been a choir dad. I've attended many events for my children within the district, a couple Super Citizens Awards. My daughter recently just got a Positive Panther Award tonight, so it's a big cause for celebration in our family. And I look forward to supporting the district moving forward into the future. I applied on the Building Reimagining Committee. I was not chosen, unfortunately, but I'll continue to try to engage with the district and support it in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I'm a parent of 2 students in the district, and with that comes a lot of activity in the school buildings, from field trips to PTA to fundraising to donations, that sort of thing. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I was fortunate enough to go to the Parent Academy. That was 4 sessions with the administration and taking tours of the buildings, and it was very informative. And for several years, I have been keeping up with the board, watching board meetings online, supporting board candidates, both financially and with my time. And I had another thing, but I forgot what it was. But I have been I attended the parent D team meetings, which were part of the Dignity initiative in the district, and the World Cafes that are actually now called Dinner with the Board, but they were called World Cafes at the time.
Nikki Nickens, you'll be able to answer this question first. In your opinion, what should be the LSR-7 School Board's top 3 priorities and why?
Well, the LSR-7 board does identify priorities. This year's priorities are academic growth and achievement, safe learning environments, and world-class facilities. I will align myself with the priorities that the board identifies. I feel like it's not a matter of personal opinion to do that. I will contribute to developing them, but I will align myself with them. As far as being a board member, personally, not only aligning myself with the goals of the board and the district, I want to really work on being a communicator. I've gotten to meet so many awesome people in the district while campaigning, and I hope to continue having those kinds of discussions that we've had prior to the election, after the election. I think communication is a big deal. Also, I think a big priority moving forward is going to be continue to be outward facing as a board member, educating the community on legislation both at the state and national level that is going to impact us locally and advocating for that.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So fiscal responsibility be one of those 3, advocating for transparent budgeting process that prioritizes classroom resources. We can look at the way we use bond money and the way we execute those capital management projects. Currently, we're doing a lump sum guaranteed maximum price structure. We can actually move to an EPC cost plus way of bidding it and save 5 to 7% on those capital management projects, which can equate up to $15 to $20 million over the bond period. That would go back into this resources for the students. Fiscal responsibility be another one of those. Promoting academic rigor would be another one of those. Advocating for high academic standards to prepare students for college, careers, and life. Expanding access to advanced placement, dual credit, and STEM programs. Then finally, support for staff and teachers. Advocating for competitive salaries and benefits to attract.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
Can you please repeat the question?
Absolutely. In your opinion, what should be the LSR-7 School Board's top 3 priorities and why?
You've already heard the 3 board priorities this year. I think that's an excellent place to start. Increasing academic growth and achievement for each student. That's a clear one. Maintaining a safe environment for staff engagement, participation, and belonging, where belonging is prioritized, and providing and maintaining world-class facilities. Those are pretty clear. I think the role of the board, and that's why I asked you to repeat the question, the role of the board should always be the same, to oversee that the district is achieving these priorities through their improvement plan, through the performance of the superintendent, and then also listening to the community and advocating on behalf of the district statewide and locally.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Thank you. So I was part of the formation of these priorities, and I think that they are important, and I would stick with these priorities. We actually kept them from last year to this year because we felt like they were very sound. For increasing academic growth, in particular, we have focused on growth and literacy by introducing phonics into our curriculum and maintaining a safe environment, which students and staff engagement, participation, and belonging are prioritized. We have had decreasing fights reported, but currently have a process review action team that is evaluating further solutions that we can do to make sure that our students and our staff are safe in our buildings. For providing and maintaining world-class facilities district-wide, we have the 2025 bond that is coming up that I hope that you will also vote to support. That will help us further improve building safety and ADA accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weatherby, we will begin with you for the next question. What is the school board's primary role and responsibility?
So the primary role and responsibility is to be good stewards of the citizens' taxpayer dollars and ensure that they're leveraged to the maximum benefit of the students, and then also to hire and evaluate the performance of the superintendent and make sure that they're executing their roles and responsibilities within the district to provide a world-class education for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
The number one responsibility of the board that the board should be accountable to the voters for is to hire and evaluate the performance of the superintendent. That is the number one goal. There are a number of other things that the board members do. They participate in committees. They listen to the community through those committees and attending events. They advocate on behalf of the district. There are a lot of things. They approve budget items, but those budget items come from the superintendent and the superintendent's staff and their plan. And overseeing priorities such as the improvement plan. Overseeing that and understanding how it aligns from the mission to the improvement plan, to the execution of that improvement plan, and how the superintendent and his staff executes that. That should be the priority.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
The role of a board member is to hire, supervise, and evaluate the superintendent. We also set district priorities, we set policy, and we oversee the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
Well, I'm not going to have a lot to add to that. The primary role of a board member is to hire and evaluate the superintendent, but also to work effectively with the superintendent in overseeing the business of the district. And that may include developing or modifying, approving, enforcing policy, and working as a body to present a united front in the district decisions.
Thank you. What is the most significant challenge the school board will face during their upcoming term? Michelle Dawson.
The most significant challenge? Well, I think there are going to be funding challenges. I've been learning a lot since I decided to run, and before that, about the funding challenges of a district in general in the state of Missouri. Missouri is 50th out of 50 in per student funding from the state to the districts. So we rely heavily on local funding in order to do the amazing things that LSR-7 does for our students. The amazing opportunities we bring them in terms of career, academic, and extracurricular opportunities that help them grow and succeed in life, real world readiness, all those programs, all the things that we do from kindergarten on up, that requires funding. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, and I think we need to defend and protect the resources we have.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Navigating funding challenges or open enrollment legislation are two things that are on the top of mind of many right now that will be affecting our district over the next few years. In particular, House Bill 711 just passed a voice vote the other day, so I encourage anyone that would like to reach out to their legislator to do so, as that bill, if it passes and moves on to the Senate, could drastically affect our district funding in negative ways. Also, another issue that is facing our district is communication. We have so many different methods for district administrators and teachers to communicate with parents via social media, text message, email, that sometimes people can get fatigue from communication. So we want to do our best to streamline that communication so that people get the information that they need in a timely manner and don't feel like they're getting so much information that what they need is actually buried. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
I think we're going to have a lot of significant challenges in the next few years. The world right now is a little bit unpredictable in terms of where we stand on public education. We are going to have, very likely to have a budget shortfall in Missouri. The Department of Education is being crippled, if not shut down. Those things will affect us locally in some ways. Even though we only get a small portion of our funding federally, it's still going to affect how some services are offered and how those decisions are made at the state level. So those are big challenges. The funding, the shift in possible oversight and administration of certain types of services, I think that we also have some more close to home issues that will be challenging, including all of the efforts to undermine public education in terms of funding, vouchers, open enrollment, charters. I also think that we need to keep an eye on technology such as AI and the impact that it may have.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
The biggest challenge will be change, both at the federal level, the state level, and at the local level. We have change at the federal level with the Department of Education and the potential shutting it down or limiting its size and scope and the funding and where it's going to transfer to. We have change at the state level with House Bill 711, as mentioned, with open enrollment, and there's several other bills at the state level right now that could affect our district. And we also have change at the local level. We have the bond coming up, and we have a lot of bond projects, and we have to engage and communicate with the community to get buy-off on those projects. I was at the meeting last night in Greenwood, and there's a lot of concerned citizens on the direction that that project's going to go. So we need to be communicating with the community early and often to get buy-in from the community and make sure that we're giving them the schools and resources that they want in their community. And that's what I see moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What is your position regarding the LSR-7 Board's current policy on DEI, beginning with Jennifer Foley?
The current policy that we have in place regarding DEI is policy ACIB, which is the Educational Equity Policy. There is one specific component of that policy that may be addressed or challenged by the legislation that is coming down from the federal and state level, which has to do with our hiring practices. But that is also verbally or written differently in our hiring policy. So there is one point that may be under contention, but we would be getting direction from the federal government and then from the state, from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and then from MSBA, and how we would be modifying that policy if we need to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
In a nutshell, the policy states that the district will respect every student for who they are, and that covers all aspects of diversity. I support that. I believe that every student should feel a sense of belonging. They should feel welcome in school. It's a place they should want to be and feel safe. I support programs that further those goals. We have, if you look at the comprehensive school improvement plan and the goals represented there, we have many programs that support many students in many ways. Special education is probably the largest group, but we have ways to reach out to all kinds of learners based on differences that they bring to the table to try to get everybody moving forward. I will continue to support all of those things, and the federal and state government actually don't have, it's illegal at this point in time for them to tell us what we can do in regards to hiring or programming at the local level.
Great, thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So we've had DEI in our educational systems for decades, and we just didn't realize it because it didn't have an acronym. The concepts behind it of the diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging have been around forever. So the current guidance from the federal level is that we just can't have policies in place that have discriminatory practices. So you can't differentiate between students or hiring based on race or ethnicity or any other immutable characteristics. So looking at the policies from what I've seen currently within districts, I've yet to find any exclusionary policies personally myself. So I don't know how much effect that those will have on our district personally, but like has been mentioned before, we'll get guidance from the state and the federal government on what we can and can't have, and then we'll move forward from there.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I've spent a lot of time looking at the district's improvement plan that was vetted by a very broad community-based group of citizens and was approved by the board. And it has in its core, I'll read you goal number 2. It's The goal is to have a responsive, inclusive, safe, and caring student environment. That's goal number 2. And the other 4 goals are equally as powerful, and the metrics by which we measure those and the strategies by which we're going to improve in those areas are things that take into account the diversity of needs of our students, the diversity of experiences of our students, and I would defend that 100%.
Thank you. This next question is the first question from our audience. And just a reminder to our candidates, when you're answering, please keep the microphone close to your mouth. In regards to fiscal responsibility and resources, explicitly, what plan do you intend on bringing to the board to attract and retain quality teachers? Teachers are no longer making R7 their career home. How do you plan to address this? Nikki Nickens.
Thank you. I like that question. First of all, I would maybe question the last part of that question, that teachers are no longer making LSR-7 their career home. We actually don't have data that support that. What we do have is data that support that when teachers leave LSR-7, the majority are leaving because of retirement. So clearly they are staying for their career. Not to mention that the way our pay scale is designed, it's well worth your time to stay late in your career. The positions where our pay is lacking, and keep in mind that we're 50th out of 50 in teacher pay anyway in Missouri, is that we do have a lot of positions, new teachers included, paras, subs, assistant principals included, that are in the bottom third of pay in the area. Explicitly, we need Prop C on the ballot, and we need to support that to bring our teacher pay up. Thank you.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So our entry-level teachers make about $43,500-ish around that starting out, and then our more senior teachers make 6 figures. So if we can raise the base pay for entry-level teachers somewhere in the area of where like Shawnee is, around $50,000, we can hire 2 entry-level teachers as one senior-level teacher retires out, and we can replace one teacher with 2 teachers in the district at the same cost. And that's a fiscal responsible move to make. We can look at the budgets and look where we can be more efficient and operate the district more efficiently, and also free up more money for the teachers as well to support those pay increases. This year, we already had $6 million set aside for teacher increases. The Prop C is also another option that could be put on the ballot as well. We just want to see high fidelity numbers come through and recommendations from the committees on how that would go and how that would raise up the needed areas within our district on pay scale.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I think one of the keys that's already been talked about is teacher pay. So I won't repeat anything that's been said, but what I will say is there have been multiple opportunities to make sure that our staff members are appreciated, and one of the ways to do that is their pay. And they are going to lose that opportunity to make up the pay for the roles that were already mentioned: assistant principals, substitute teachers, transportation, paras, specialists. Those staff members are not going to have their pay disparities addressed this year because Proposition C was not put on the ballot and voters were not given a chance to vote on that and increase that funding to help those staff members. So that's the biggest one. But of course, we need to support our teachers any way we can because they do an amazing job.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
We attract and retain high-quality educators. We have high retention rates. Our senior educators have high pay, and we have provided $6 million for raises this year without Prop C. Some schools in Missouri were forced by SB 727 to raise their minimum rates or their minimums to $40K for teachers, but we were already above that. People talk about Missouri being 50 out of 50, but LSR-7 is not one of those that's at that bottom in that 50. Now, Team Lee Summit is evaluating admin pay and support staff pay and how to address the gaps that have occurred. But in the past, we have had a levy transfer that was supposed to address it, and those gaps still existed. We need that information that will come from the consultants that are looking at that pay before we can address it. But we have had $12 million additional in our reserves this year, so if our administration wanted us to just straight out give extra pay, we could do it without propsy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next question for Leon Weatherby first. What changes, if any, should be made to the LSR-7's current student curriculum?
So I fully admit that I am not an educational professional, and making recommendations on curriculum, I would definitely work with educational professionals. I do know that we are lagging in some areas, K through 8. We have some very average scores in reading and math that we could look at potentially getting a more effective curriculum, but we'd have to look into that and study to see what our current curriculum is, how effective it is, and are there any better curriculums out there that are seeing better results. We should never kind of rest on our laurels. We should always want to increase our academic achievement and our performance of our students. So there's always room for improvement. It's just knowing who to talk to, who the experts are, to get that advice, to actually get results for your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson?
I agree 100%. The district should not rest on its laurels. And guess what? It's not. So there is an improvement plan in place that gets evaluated every single year. It's a large plan. It's a 3-year plan, and it was approved by the board. And in that plan, it gets down into specific details about researched, vetted with teachers, and selected curriculum that are being implemented, that teachers are being trained on. The board should be overseeing that that's what's happening. And each year, the board should be evaluating the results of the steps that were taken in the previous year and determining, along with the superintendent, do we need to make any adjustments to the plan? And if that means reevaluating a curriculum that was selected, that's fine. But the board should not be choosing curriculum.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley?
So we have been working on a process review action team to look at secondary literacy. That is an area that we can improve on when we have struggling readers that have either passed through the system or just enter our school district that don't have some of the foundational skills. Our district has also been working on some curriculum alignment that will be helpful going forward so that teachers can collaborate with other teachers so they don't have to reinvent the wheel, because peers can work together with each other to figure out best practices. We need to be further investing in special education curriculum. We shouldn't have to have teachers or educators that are going on Teachers Pay Teachers to get the support that they need. So that is something that I will be further advocating for, is to make sure that every educator has the curriculum resources that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens?
First of all, when we talk about curriculum, that is so wide and so deep. What curriculum are we addressing? There's different content area curriculum, there's different grade level curriculum. So that's kind of difficult to answer just in that context. I will say that luckily as a board member, I don't need to be a curriculum expert. I think that we have lots of experts in the district, that we have math experts, we have literacy experts, you know, we have people who know what's going on in the curriculum. We also have a lot of assessments in the district that we follow up on. And that give us information about the effectiveness of the curriculum and also the effectiveness of how it's being implemented. When the state first identified, became aware of the research around 2017-18 that we need to better serve our children with dyslexia, I was involved in those state level discussions, and at that time the district began to bring in more phonics-based literacy. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question, Michelle Dawson will get to answer it first. Do you support proposed legislation for open enrollment in the Missouri public school system And how should the LSR-7 School District prepare if open enrollment legislation is passed?
That legislation would be harmful to public education. It causes logistical challenges and financial challenges to both the districts that are going to lose students to more destination districts and the destination districts, which you might think off the top of your head, oh, LSR-7 is one. Hey, we're going to have more kids coming here. Wouldn't that be great? Well, what I mentioned earlier about the fact that most of our funding is local, local funding does not follow the student. Only state funding follows the student. So imagine trying to run your household. Say you had 4 people in your household and the neighbor decided to send 2 kids your way to eat every night. And they said, I'll give you $5. That's not really going to cover it, right? So I am against open enrollment for our district. And if it passes, we're going to have to, hopefully we can opt out. And if we can't, hopefully we'll be able to manage it and make clear to the community the impact.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
So I am against the open enrollment bills that have been proposed by our legislators. There are many logistical issues that are very concerning for our district, one of them being transportation. If our district has to pay to transport students that want to leave our district, that is a tremendous expense. Also, when we accept students, the property tax dollars do not follow those students that we would accept into our district. Sports is an issue. If you have a child that is an athlete, and you know we have some amazing high school sports programs, how would you feel if you knew that all the other surrounding districts could also send their athletic students to our district, who would then compete on the same teams, and so maybe your student might sit on the bench just because we would have an abundance of athletic players. Also, special education. We have many students with many significant needs, and I think that will cause a lot of tension between the districts as they try to navigate how students might transfer. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
I'll try not to repeat anything that has been said because some good points have been made. I like Michelle's analogy a lot. I think that lays it out. Also consider that we are going to be a destination district. We are currently a destination district. It's going to be a far greater problem to be on the receiving end of students for us than the leaving end of students, which means that our resources could be overwhelmed. Think about being located just south of Independence that currently has a 4-day school week. If you're a parent in Independence and the borders are now open, how many of you support a completely open border policy? How many kids are going to come south from Independence to have that 5-day school week?
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So I would also not support open enrollment, but I think it's a large possibility that we'll end up getting it. Currently, there's 43 states with open enrollment. I don't want it, but we need to be prepared if it does come. So we need to look at that. How does that impact our district? We need to look at the language in the bills right now in the House. I believe, there's some out there like 3% of the student population could actually go from one school district to the next. Look at how many kids that is, what's the transportation going to look like, what budgets need to support that transportation, what type of students, are there going to be a larger percentage of special education students that require more resources or not? And like was said, the resources don't necessarily follow the students from a local level. We need to look at the utilization rate that we have in our schools to see if we can fit those students and what classrooms they would go to, which schools they would go to. And also, as to the point of sports players moving over, I think the current legislation reads that the first year a student transfers over to a new school district, they can't participate in varsity sports. So it'd be a 1-year timeout on that.
Thank you. Next question. Please describe the ideal relationship between LSR-7 School Board, the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and the business community. Jennifer Foley, first.
Well, I think we already have a pretty fantastic relationship with the chamber and the community. We have many different opportunities to co-mingle and get involved, and we partner with many projects, including looking at workforce development and the The reintroduction of the Economic Development Council, those are things that benefit our students, they benefit our businesses because we allow different opportunities for internships and externships and let the community see the business opportunities that we have, see the talent pipeline that we have, which can recruit new businesses to come into our area and can also encourage businesses to look at our talent pool and to get involved with our district, learn about what's going on in our district because those are their future employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
I think there's going to be some amazing opportunities for further partnership in the future. As I understand it, the relationship is very strong right now. I think as we look more and more at options for career-ready students, we have more options to partner with local businesses and industry. I think also in the future, as we shift a little bit and look at future-ready learning, that there may be ways to even modify the high school day more than we do. I think we've made great inroads into creating high school environments that aren't as strictly conventional as they always have been, because we've seen that for a lot of kids that may not work. And so introducing those early opportunities for internships, learning, work skills, career-ready skills, I think is going to be amazing.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
I see a large potential for partnership between the Chamber of Commerce, business, and the school district. The biggest benefit being for the students that are in like a Pathways program that have a focus area, they can go out and do an internship in the real world business and get on the job experience, hands-on, and see if that's the path for them, and to see if that focus is where their passion really lies. There's a lot of opportunities for businesses to partner with the school district as well, providing funding for different programs like the robotics program I recently learned of, and I'm looking to sponsor my personal business into the robotics program as well, because seeing what those kids are doing with that technology and that manufacturing, that innovation, is just inspiring to me as somebody who owns a manufacturing business as well. So yeah, I think it's a partnership where it's a mutually beneficial, where business gets the benefit of highly trained, capable students, and the students get the benefit of being exposed to that earlier on in their education. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I don't want to waste my 60 seconds repeating all the great things that have already been said about the really strong partnership that is going on right now. We're sitting in a building that is a reflection of the strong relationships. Where I think we can improve upon the already strong relationships, programs, internships, is communication, is having clear communication to families, students, and business partners about the opportunities. When I took a tour of this building during Parent Academy, I learned that some of the amazing programs here are not full. They're not full. We have 17,500 students, and we have rooms here that are not full. And these programs are incredible. So I think that as a group, the chamber, the business community, and the school board need to help promote the programs and the partnerships that we have.
Thank you. This next question, Nikki Nickens will get the chance to answer first. What is your opinion about private school vouchers and school choice?
Can I have 10 minutes, please, for this? I'm completely opposed to vouchers in any form, any type of, we have a broad umbrella called school choice, and that is something that was designed politically to sound appealing. And the analogy I've been using is also when you go to Lowe's and start your garden, you buy the bag of stuff called organic matter, and that sounds appealing as well. But you know what it actually is, okay? So don't let the title fool you. So vouchers, open enrollment, any type of program offered under school choice is designed to defray funding from public schools. We already fight tooth and nail for our funding. We locally have wonderful support in this community for our funding. And so I don't want anything to damage that. Public money, public schools.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So I do not support vouchers. I'm a big advocate of public education. I received a public education and I've done very well with it. And I've sent my daughters out to get a public education as well. The money that we come together as a village and we pull together to build our educational system needs to be allocated to building that education system and building it so good and so great that no one would consider sending their kid outside of that education system because it's the best one available to them. And so I'm going to continue to advocate for public dollars going to public schools, and that's where I stand on the issue, so thank you.
Michelle Dawson.
I believe in public education making a strong public education equals a strong community. Our entire community benefits from a strong school district. So the funding that is collected for education should go to the public education system. Did you know that if you send your student to Our Lady of the Presentation, which I did before we came to the district, you can send your student to an LSR-7 building for special education, gifted program, these career programs here. The resources of the district are available to every student in the community, and they benefit every student in the community. So therefore, the funding for public education should stay in the district.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Private school vouchers and school choice remove funding from our schools without accountability measures. Private schools do not have to accept students that have special needs. They do not have to be held to the same levels of accountability as public schools. So I am against giving public funding to schools that do not have to live up to the same level of accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What is your understanding of Proposition C and your opinion on the position the school board has taken? Leon Weatherby first.
So Prop C is a decrease in our levy to offset money given to us by the state from federal highway and sales tax. So they agreed to collect that tax, give it to the school district. The districts offset that amount they got with a levy decrease. And so the Prop C waiver is basically saying we'll still take the money from the state and we'll just raise the levy back up, which provides extra funding to the district. And so a lot of districts are doing that, and we've seen that happen in a lot more as of recently. I'm not necessarily opposed to it if we have a good use for the money and we know where the money's going and we know it's going to be used effectively to help the students and staff within the district. So I believe the board looked at that and they just felt they didn't, I'm assuming here, didn't have enough information to put it forward. And also they were concerned with it muddying the waters with the no tax increase bond. A lot of people are still sore over the assessments, and so they're afraid it may make the bond fail.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
There was an opportunity that the board had to put this waiver that Leon just described on the ballot in April to let voters decide if they wanted to pass it. And passing it means that there would be an increase in taxes to property owners. That is true, but that funding did have a plan, does have a plan. And because the board voted to not put it on the ballot, we're gonna lose an entire school year before we can put it on the ballot, get it voted yes or no, and if it's voted yes, then a year from now, teachers and staff, assistant principals, substitute teachers, the other staff that we already talked about, we can then address their pay disparities.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
All right, so this has been a lovely hot topic with a lot of misinformation. So first I wanted to say that we are giving our staff $6 million in raises this year. So everyone is getting a step increase and a percentage increase. So we also voted in 2023 for a levy transfer that gave significant salary increases but did not raise taxes. The discussion about Prop C, the Prop C waiver, was brought to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and they were split on the decision on whether or not it should be in April or August. And one of the main concerns that was presented is that it could negatively impact the bond. The no tax increase bond is something that our district really needs, and it is very difficult to explain a no tax increase at the same time as a tax increase and not worry that they're both going to be tanked, especially when we had groups that were getting ready to rally against the bond because of a potential school closure. Also, it will be coming back. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
So 150-person Citizens Advisory Committee studied the issue of Prop C and where that money would go. They studied the salary schedule for all employees of the district, and they made a recommendation to the board to go ahead and put the Prop C question on the ballot. This is not the board deciding that Prop C was going to pass. This is the board deciding to let the voters decide whether Prop C would pass and whether teachers would get salary raises. Every year, teachers in Lee Summit get a stepwise and a percentage-wise salary raise. That was not a raise. That was an expected increase in salary that is approved every August. So it wasn't additional money. And now teachers who, because the voters were not able to decide to put it on, when it was appeared in April, it will be at least a year before those salary raises could kick in if the question passed.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson, you get to answer this next question first. What is your position on the district's $225 million no tax increase bond initiative?
As a board member, I would have definitely supported putting it on the ballot for voters to decide. And as a voter, I'm going to be voting yes. It is the opportunity for the district to do capital improvement projects. And in that $225 million, it is a number of projects that really need to be done for accessibility issues, for building maintenance and improvement, that sort of thing. In that $225 million, even if you as a community member may not agree with one item or two items or question how the Citizens Advisory Committee narrowed down the 50-plus projects down into the number of projects in that bond, the 150 people had input into that. 72 million of it is basic maintenance, replacing roofs, replacing air conditioning units, fixing floors. That has to be done. So I'm voting yes.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Thank you. I support the bond. There are many things that are desperately needed in our district that will be addressed, including the new Greenwood Elementary, if you've ever been to that school. It is a very historic building that has just had different additions added in different sections over time. They call it like walking through the eras. You can go from a part that's 100 years old to a part that's 60 years old, and you can see the shifts in the height in the hallway, by the way, because I almost hit my head when I walked down one of the specific hallways. There's also ADA accessibility issues. So not only Greenwood Elementary, but Hazel Grove as well. So we have opportunities to make improvements for these schools while also addressing issues district-wide, including ADA accessibility, safety enhancements, and capital improvement projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
As a voter, I fully support the bond. I will be voting in support of it. There are some really exciting projects that are slated with the money that could be earned through the bonds. I went to Greenwood Elementary last night as well to listen in on the bond presentation. It was really interesting. And it reminded me as a future board member that there's always more than one perspective. I thought we were going to go out and we were going to have a happy group of people like, yay, we get a $44 million brand new building to replace the building that was built in 1910 that, as Jennifer described, looks a little patchworked at this point and is right on 150 where the traffic is nuts. But it did remind me that not everyone, was looking at it through the same lens. And I think it was a good refresher to me that as a board member, I always need to look past just the things that I would think maybe are good or exciting and make sure that we're collecting perspectives from everyone, all stakeholders.
Thank you. Leanne Weatherby.
So I also support the bond. I think it's vital to support our infrastructure and improve our schools. We're replacing schools that were built in 1910. So I would like to see a little more fidelity in the proposed projects. I'd like to see the community embrace those projects really well. We've seen 2 projects that were presented, and the community was kind of surprised at some of those projects. So I just like to see more community involvement and more communication between the district and the community to make sure that those bond funds are executing the projects in a way that the community feels is in their best interest, and that the community has a participation, a seat at the table to guide those projects and to make sure that we end up with the best possible schools and infrastructure possible for that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. How do you intend to achieve consensus with your school board colleagues? Jennifer Foley first.
The great thing about being on the Board of Education is that we are a very diverse group. We can have different thoughts and opinions. We come from different backgrounds. So we will do our best to have discussion. We will do our best to come to consensus as best as possible. There are often going to be times that sometimes we just don't agree. But the beauty in that is that we can have those discussions, and we will have decisions that are made, and then we can walk away at the end of the day, and we can still be respectful and civil with each other and go with the will of the board. We often, I mean, the majority of our decisions are pretty, easy decisions that are not controversial, that are a 7-0 vote, but those aren't the ones that make the social media headlines. But we do have a great opportunity in our district to have multiple voices heard and expressed, and that's something that is just a great part of our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
As a former administrator in higher education, I can tell you that I still, as a faculty member in higher education, I work with a lot of people who have very different opinions and ideas of the right way to do things. I'm always open to other perspectives. It does not mean I'm a pushover, but I definitely want to hear things that maybe I haven't considered previously. I also am a huge believer in research and data. And so if a decision can be made on evidence, that's the way to go. And I will dig my heels in on that. If a decision can be non-subjective and non-opinion driven, and certainly not politically or other agenda driven, then I want to say, this is what the research says, this is what the data say.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
Yeah, so when you're working on a team, you have to consider everybody on the team and what they bring to the table. Everybody has their own strengths and their expertises. And so finding that common ground, finding what we share, and then bonding over those shared common thoughts, and then working out what our differences are and what our differencing of opinions are. And then also maintaining focus on what we're there for. We're there for the students. We're there to make sure they get a great quality education and have a great educational system to participate in. So if we can put aside our own personal political beliefs, agendas, thoughts, and predispositions, look at the information and make rational decisions that are in the best interest of our children, I think we could get along and make good decisions as a team, regardless.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I think the key to reaching consensus between 7 individuals that come with different perspectives, different experience, different knowledge and expertise is having the same goal. And that one goal should be simple for a school board. And we have it printed above the dais in the boardroom, and that is, we prepare each student for success in life. And if you have 7 people bringing 7 great perspectives to that one goal, then reaching consensus should not take that long. Listening to every person in the room who brings the voices of the community with them into the room, and making a decision for what's best for preparing students for success in life. It should be easy. And so we need to leave personal ideologies at the door. We need to leave personal politics at the door. We need to leave personal agendas at the door of the boardroom and walk into the room and be a representative for those students and nothing more.
Thank you. This next question, Nikki Nickens will get to answer first. How will you address the challenges related to student mental health, and how would you increase community support?
You're going to start thinking I stacked the deck because I'm an educational psychologist and this is my lane. I think that if we don't pay attention to student mental health as well as their social and emotional needs, teaching can't take place. You recapture instructional time. You get more instructional time if things are going well in the classroom. Our kids' mental health needs can be addressed by a lot of resources, including social workers in the schools, including education on trauma-informed care, including all teachers having the tools to provide interventions when necessary. I also don't think we need to discount the mental health needs of our teachers who work often in very challenging conditions with some challenging kiddos. So I would hope that there's room to support them as well.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So I think one of the critical thing would be making sure that the teachers work with the parents to identify any potential mental health issues and ensure that the child's getting the support they need at home and also the support they need at school. If they need to reach out to a counselor, that the counselor's there and we have the resources in the district to provide that counselor and the specialists, and to ensure that the parents have all the resources they need at home to support that child as well. So that's basically how I would deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
Mental health issues in the classroom are real. Parents are doing everything they can. If you assume that parents aren't doing their job and that we need to push it back on the parents, then I would love for you to talk to a teacher in a classroom one day, because the teacher gets the whole student showing up in their classroom. And it's the educator's role to help that student focus on learning. So I think there are some amazing partnerships with the community right now. We have, I think, 2 organizations, or it might be back down to 1, organization that helps with mental health resources. We also have great counselors, great specialists, that sort of thing. So there is a lot going on there, but we need to make sure we safeguard the resources that we need to bring those resources and supports into the buildings so that the teachers can help the students focus on learning in a safe and inclusive environment.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Thank you. We have MOUs with on-site counseling services like Burrell so that students do not have to leave the school when they need to get serviced. We have educators that have professional development training in trauma-informed care. And we partner with organizations like Lee Summit Cares and Rediscover to provide education and resources. And also a step that we have taken this year is to remove cell phones during instructional time, as we know that cell phones and social media have had a significant impact on mental health for teens. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question was submitted by a member of the audience. What is your assessment of LSR-7 Superintendent Dr. David Buck's job performance? Leon Weatherby first.
I think Dr. Buck has done a great job so far. We're number 1 in Jackson and Cass County. There's been no major issues in our school district over the past few years under his leadership. I have no personal complaints with his performance at this point in time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Michelle Dawson.
As a parent and as a prospective board member, I'm happy that I'll get to work with Dr. Buck. Every district has room for improvement, but that isn't grounds for saying that the superintendent's doing a bad job. We do have the highest APR score of the area, and we are doing an excellent job educating our students. I have not observed in either board meetings or just in the performance of the district any reason to say that Dr. Buck is doing anything other than his best to support the district. We have an improvement plan because we know that things need to be improved in the district, and every employee of the district has the same. So everyone wants to do better next year, of course. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't continue on this path with Dr. Buck.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Dr. Buck is very well known and very well liked in our community. He has brought stability to our district after having some tumultuous times with a few different superintendents that many of you may remember. He is someone that is very data driven. If you ever ask him anything about our district, he can spout numbers so fast. It is incredible. He knows the amount of miles that our transportation team drives, the acreage that we have, the amount of square footage of roofing in our buildings. It is phenomenal, the data that he remembers. As also mentioned, we do now have the highest APR score in Jackson and Cass County, thanks to many of the initiatives that we have done over the past 3 years with his partnership. Some of the things that he has brought to our district that I think are also memorable are things like the 5th grade birdhouse projects. So our students get the opportunity to have hands-on experience with tools to learn if something like that might be of interest. And also there's an 8th grade algebra initiative that he has brought as well. Thank you.
Nikki Nickens.
So my opinion would be formed on the data and the metrics that I've had the opportunity to see regarding Dr. Buck's performance. First of all, he came in and inherited COVID. And that was a rough time that he had to work through. From individuals that work in the district, I have heard that although it was rough, his leadership made it as good as it could be with the decisions that were made and the rough seas that went on for a while there. As mentioned, we have the highest APR in both Jackson and Cass County currently, first time in a while. Our discipline issues have gone down 23% in the last year. There's been curricular adjustments in response to gaps and scores that we weren't happy with in the district. Teacher retention is excellent. We have about 8 to 12% attrition every year. And he has revised the gifted criteria so that more children have the opportunity to be in the gifted programs, which is why I was confused that initially his contract wasn't extended.
Michelle Dawson, you get to answer this question first. How has our school district appropriately met the needs of students with special education requirements?
I think we have a lot of resources allocated to that in this district. I think people come to this district for that reason, that specific reason. I've been around the communities talking to voters for the last few months and learning more than I thought I knew all about the district, and I've heard some amazing stories. And there are people who have moved to Lee Summit just for the special education resources. I know people who send their kids to Our Lady of the Presentation who take advantage of the special education resources in the district. I mean, it's that good. So as a board member, if elected to the board, I want to make sure we're safeguarding and protecting those resources from the federal, state, and local levels. We need to protect those resources and fund those resources because that is something that we do well.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Could you repeat the question?
How has our school district appropriately met the needs of students with special education requirements?
Thank you. So our district follows the regulations set by the state and federal government in regards to 504s and IEPs. We also have accommodations that are often set just at the building level that don't come from regulation, but just come from educators saying, hey, I see this student and they really thrive when this happens. So we have many ways that we are serving the needs of our students with special needs. One thing I will say is that we do have many incredible resources, but we often have barriers to access for those resources. And that's something that I think that the district needs to move forward in looking into is how can we make sure that when a student is struggling, they are able to get a 504 or an IEP that they need without having to invest in someone to come in and advocate for them. How can we make it so it's easy on parents to be able to get that support for their child? Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
Again, and try not to be redundant in repeating We have a lot of resources for our children with exceptionalities. We also have a gifted program, which falls under the umbrella of exceptional kids. We have Miller Park, which is amazing. We have good transition programs. We're pretty strong. That doesn't mean that there's not always going to be needs that pop up. Special education, by definition, requires very individualized attention. I do want to say, again, and a plug for teachers, in order to continue to attract and retain qualified teachers, special education teachers are like the Ark of the Covenant, right? I mean, they're like very difficult to find and very treasured once you find them. It's hard to attract them into the field, and we have to make sure that we are compensating them appropriately so we can keep the most qualified teachers for the most vulnerable population.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
So we support the needs with 504 and IEP plans as mentioned, and we also even have a 504 coordinator, which is kind of unique to the district. So we create these plans for the students and give them individualized education plans and 504 plans to meet their needs. We ensure that the district has these special education teachers in pairs to assist in smaller classroom environments to meet the needs of those children. We have ADA compliance in our buildings to make sure that they can get around the building as necessary. And the district's currently, progressing forward to make sure all the buildings are fully ADA compliant moving forward. So the district's investing resources into meeting the needs of these children, and it shows by it being sort of a special education destination district to an extent, as mentioned before, where people are moving to the district for the program. But we need to make sure we continue to support that program and to support those teachers because they do have a very challenging job. And so providing the necessary support is crucial. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is presented from a member of the audience. How will you prioritize trust and transparency with your fellow board members, staff, and community? Jennifer Foley.
I think the best way to emphasize that priority is through communication. Trust is trust. I guess that's kind of a difficult question. We want to build relationships, communicate with each other, listen to each other, treat each other respectfully. Those are all components in how you build trust. We should assume that every board member and member of the community that brings up any kind of a question or concern is doing so because they have a legitimate reason. We need to listen to people to hear their concerns and not automatically assume that someone is just coming in with an agenda. I think our board, for the most part, has done really well with that. I think our community members have been really increasingly been willing to step up and raise concerns to our awareness because they know that we're listening and we're advocating for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
I think building trust and maintaining transparency is always a work in progress. It seems like you can work a long time to build trust and have a misstep and lose it, and it can take a long time to rebuild. I think that as representatives of the community, elected by the community, for the community, there's an obligation there to make sure that decisions are transparent. I think the district does a really pretty amazing job, especially for a district this size, of being transparent. That website is kind of nuts. I would not want to be in charge of that. They have so much information on it. I think sometimes the issue is finding it because there's so much there. I met with our director of communications and talked about what kind of issues has the district identified. They had a whole audit done last year. It's like an 80-page report that's fairly amazing. And because of feedback from about 1,800 community members, they've identified ways to be even more transparent and tighten up that communication.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
I think you can build trust by making personal connections with the fellow board members, understanding where they come from, what their concerns are, and what their perspectives are. Showing empathy and respecting the decorum of the board and the processes and procedures, respecting the closed session information that you share amongst each other and the decisions that are made on the board, and just showing general support for each other as board members and wanting the same things and the same goals and the same outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I absolutely believe in empathy, that 100%. And I'm a work in progress, learning how to be more empathetic and how to truly listen to people. But trust and transparency is not just about listening and empathy. It is, but it's being authentic and doing what you say and saying what you do. So I'm not going to make promises that I can't keep. I'm not going to promise that I'm going to get a certain curriculum put into the district. I'm not going to promise that I'm going to keep a certain school building open if it's not my decision to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to listen, and I am going to understand the different perspectives of fellow board members, of staff members in the district, of administration folks in Stansbury Leadership Center, and in the community, and take that information in and synthesize it with the data and the research that comes into me as well.
Thank you. This next question, Nikki Nickens gets to answer it first. What is the concern regarding the LSR-7 School District that has not been raised yet this evening?
Oh gosh, so much has been raised this evening. Well, I think the teacher shortage hasn't been raised. I know LSR-7 doesn't feel the effects of the teacher shortage the way that many other surrounding districts may feel it. They've been pretty successful because they're a great district to work for. They've been pretty successful in continuing to attract and retain great teachers, but if we don't take care of them, that may change. Another thing that I think probably can't be overstated is the fact that we have been pretty insulated locally and protected locally. We need to remember that it's a very good thing that most of our funding comes from the local community and not from the state and not from the federal government, because we retain control over our schools that way.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
One concern that comes to mind that hasn't been discussed is the administrative burden placed on teachers. As the district grows and the administration grows within the district, there becomes more administrative policies and burdens placed on these teachers, and it can be distracting for them to provide the education and also meet all of the administrative and bureaucratical requirements as that's placed on them from a large district. So that'd be one thing I would look at, is how can we support these teachers in reducing the burden that's placed on them so they can get to doing what they really are passionate about, which is teaching, because teachers don't teach for income, they teach for outcomes.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about the last question, because even though we did talk about trust and transparency, I think that's the concern that weighs heavily on my mind, and why I'm running for school board is I think our community is very polarized. And I think there should be just a fundamental understanding of the value of public education and the support of public education. And I hear staff members in our school buildings who don't trust our own school board, who are very nervous about getting the support they need. There has to be a culture shift where building staff, administration, and school board are all on the same page, and there is a level of trust. And we need to all be on the same page. We need to be listening to the folks closest to the work, which is them, and making decisions based on what the students need.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
All right, I think there's two things that come to mind. So one of them is the increasing utilization of artificial intelligence and the impact it'll have on the future of education. We've already seen how it impacts students in potential using it as a resource and or potentially cheating, and then how educators navigate whether or not that is cheating or whether that is an approved use of it. We need to make sure that we are allowing it in some forms, because we want to keep our kids or our students on the forefront of technology so that they are equipped when they enter the workforce. But at the same time, we need to make sure that they have the foundational skills that they need. We also need to make sure that educators are informed on how to use those tools themselves to further enhance and improve their curriculum. Another thing that I would like to address is just the comments about the polarized community and social media. Not everything that you read online is true. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 questions remaining, both submitted by members of the audience. The first, if the upcoming bond fails to pass, what budget changes will be needed? Beginning with Leon Weatherby.
So we'd have to look at what's proposed within the bond and how much of the infrastructure support we were planning to provide through the bond funds. And then that infrastructure support, say roofing, HVAC needs, just basic needs of the district that would normally come out of general budgets will now have to come out of the general budget. And we'll have to prioritize the needs and look at where we can take money that's currently being allocated in the general budget and cover those infrastructure expenses. And a lot of those expenses are going to be facility related. And if the bond does pass, we're still going to keep these older buildings. We're building new buildings, but we're also keeping older buildings. So our footprint grows and our infrastructure cost grows no matter what. And so we have to look at, without bond funds in the future, because the bonds are never guaranteed, we need to have a self-sustaining budget, a balanced budget, where we can maintain our footprint with or without bond money, because then we expose ourselves to risk if we build a footprint so large that the infrastructure can't be maintained under general budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Dawson.
I'm glad you asked that question because I was just at the bond presentation to the Greenwood Alderman meeting last night that you heard about a couple times. And I had a chance afterwards to talk with one of the district administrators about that exact question. I asked him that question. I said, so what if the bond doesn't pass? What do we do about the $72 million worth of crucial maintenance projects that we do? And his answer wasn't a happy one. It was that, you know, all the big projects would be put on hold until we could bring it to the voters again. And the crucial maintenance work would have to be prioritized. So, for example, if your roof isn't leaking today, you may not get a roof this summer. You know, that type of thing. And we're going to have to find the funds from other buckets in the district to do the bare minimum of work that we need to do to maintain our facilities.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Our long-range plan for the district is based on the passage of bonds. So if we did not pass the bond in April, we would have to go and first prioritize the projects that had the most urgent need, but then we would need to get community feedback on what caused the bond issue to fail, and then we would turn around and have to put it on the August ballot. So we would make sure that we hear from the community what were the concerns, what do we need to address, shift our plan, and then we would put it on the ballot again. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
Well, I very much hope the bond issue passes. I'm very much in support of that. The district, meaning the community, owns $1.5 billion worth of real estate that comprise all of the facilities and land in this district. And as a community, I hope that all of us agree to continue to keep up with our real estate investment. If the bond doesn't pass, I think there obviously would be very hard decisions that would need to be made. I can't personally identify any sitting here right now, but that would obviously be a lot of conversations and investigation done by the board in collaboration with district leadership and stakeholders.
Thank you. This will be the last question of the night. This one also comes from our audience, and it's question number 21. Yeah, we got through a lot of content tonight. Michelle Dawson, you get to answer this one first. What is the role of individual school board members to lobby and secure state funding for LSR-7?
The school board is in a great position to not just act as citizens of the Lee Summit District, but also because board members have that public visibility and the opportunity and the access that maybe the average voter, the average parent doesn't quite have. So so the opportunity to be able to interface and engage with legislators is a bigger one. It's a bigger stage, and so it's incumbent upon all 7 board members to take advantage of that platform and use the resources that they have available to them to reach out to those legislators whenever there's anything education related that's coming up in the House or the Senate in Jefferson City, and talk about the needs of LSR-7 and the needs of their voters. Absolutely.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
So the board has legislative priorities, and that gives direction for people to speak also on the board's behalf, including administrators, when they go out in the community and when they speak to legislators. But board members are equally equipped to go and advocate for our district. Personally, I have advocated at the federal level for fully funding IDEA. I have advocated at the state level for funding the foundation formula, for opposing bills that are harmful to public education, including HB 711 just the other day when I was in Jefferson City. And also things like the sports betting, adding it to the foundation formula instead of just being included into the foundation formula. So we want to make sure that we're fully funding our schools. And also, one of the things that I have discussed with legislators is predictability in property tax assessments. We know Jackson County property tax debacle has put a hardship on many people, and so we just want to bring some predictability that will help our district budget better as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
I think board members have both a group obligation as well as a personal obligation to advocate whenever it comes to legislation that either will promote and further the goals of the district or run counter to those goals. We do have a legislative platform that spell out pretty clearly where we stand in support of or opposition to different types of legislation that may emerge. I think that there's always opportunities for board members. I'm an educator. I love to talk, in case you couldn't tell. I love to talk about education. Some people talk about football. I talk about education. And so I think there's lots of chances, things like dinner with the board that has been going on since, I think, Shelley Sadler several boards ago, opportunities to interface face-to-face with community members and stakeholders and talk about challenges that may come up, as well as maybe Day on the Hill with the whole board. That should be probably a couple time of year type of thing. I think there's lots of opportunities to advocate for the district.
Thank you. Leon Weatherby.
Yeah, so this was a topic, on full transparency, I was unaware of the level of advocacy that board members had done until I ran for the school board. And recently I've learned, the level of advocacy that these school boards are going to at the local, the state, and the federal levels. And I think it's a great thing, advocating for our community and advocating for our students. And I'd be fully supportive of going to the state level and advocating with state senators and representatives for the interests and the needs of our students. And I've already done it on a personal level. I live 1 mile from where the proposed landfill is going to be. And I have a young child that has breathing issues that attended the school across from that landfill. And so I fought back against that landfill, and I emailed all of the state representatives and the state senators and attended the Raymore city meetings, because Raymore really led that effort. And I felt Lee Summit was kind of lagging behind on fighting for our children that was going to be located near that landfill. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now each candidate will have an opportunity to present closing remarks. Please limit your remarks to 1 minute. We will reverse the order used during the opening remarks, beginning with Leon Weatherby.
So in closing, I truly believe public education is the cornerstone of opportunity for every student. Every child deserves access to the resources and support they need to succeed. And I want to ensure that our district continues to provide that foundation. It is also crucial that we support our dedicated teachers and staff. They're the heart of our schools, and their hard work, passion, and commitment to student success deserves our utmost respect and support. As a board member, I will advocate for policies that help retain and empower our educators. Equally important, I understand the responsibility to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We must make decisions that prioritize the needs of our students and staff while ensuring that our district operates efficiently and effectively. Thank you for your time tonight, and I look forward to discussing how we can together continue strengthening the district for the benefit of every child in LSR-7. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Nickens.
Again, thank you for coming out tonight. It feels like it's been a pretty long stretch here with 22 questions now. I'd like to reiterate my desire to be on the board. I feel like I can contribute. I value public education. It has served my family so well here in the Lee Summit community. I teach kids from all kinds of high schools, rural, suburban, urban, in Missouri and outside of Missouri. And when we talk about opportunities that they had in high school, many of them don't even have the opportunity for dual credit. Our kids have so many opportunities here. I think it's so important to maintain local control. I think it's so important to continue to focus on the things we do really well and build on those to be better. I think it's really important to use data and research to identify maybe gaps that we need to fill. I want to empower teachers and students, and I want to stand up for public schools.
Thank you. Jennifer Foley.
Thank you. We have many incredible opportunities in our district that often don't get highlighted. We have Summit Technology Academy, which has the cybersecurity programs, the Grow Your Own program, the Aerospace Academy, international business. And some people may not know this, but I am also an educator in the nuclear medicine program for the University of Missouri. And I have taught our allied health students that have come through our program here. And so that's been incredible to see them choosing the field and then going on to nuclear medicine. We also have Summit Ridge Academy, which often doesn't get highlighted enough. That gives students that have experienced troubled past opportunities to move forward in a positive way and really take back their education. We've had the return of Future Farmers of America, Workforce Alliance, and also we have had an incredible opportunity to really look at literacy improvements, including bringing in U-Fly phonics curriculum and improving relationships with our parents of struggling readers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michelle Dawson.
I'd like to thank, once again, each of you for coming here and listening to our answers to these questions. I hope it's informed you and helped you to make a good decision about the future of our board moving forward. I will bring my operations experience, my district knowledge, and my project management experience to bring a discerning eye to reviewing the performance of the district with respect to achieving the mission, performing as a superintendent and as administration, and execution of the improvement plan, which is a very detailed plan, and I want to see results for each of those line items. And I think I can bring the expertise that can look at that and see that we're continuing to move in the right direction as a district. I'm very proud of our district. I love being in this district. I can't wait to support it more with your votes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. Real quickly, if you grab one of our candidate profiles books, there is a typo on the first page. It currently reads that 4 candidates have filed to run for 3 available spots. It's actually 2. There are 2 available school board spots. That's one typo that's in this profile book. Please join me in thanking each candidate for being with us this evening and for participating in tonight's forum. We also appreciate the University of Central Missouri and the Missouri Innovation Campus for the wonderful facilities and hospitality. Finally, our sincere thanks to this evening's sponsors and partnerships with the Chamber: Checklist Media, Life Goals Strategies Group, Rodney Lesh, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, St. Luke's Health System, and Tingle Flooring. And thank you to our live audience. We appreciate you attending this evening. Your engagement and interest in being part of this important and worthwhile process is critically important. The Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce has done its part by introducing each school board candidate to our community. Now we ask you to do your part and exercise your right to vote on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Have a great, safe evening. Thank you all for coming.